My name is Nicole, and I am the International Affairs Specialist at Korea University Graduate School. And today we have a student from our school. So, could you please explain about yourself?
Right, so my name is Hana, and I'm 25 years old. I study in Civil, Environmental, and Architectural Engineering department, and my master's is in Energy Systems.
Well, thank you for coming here today to feature in our video. Could you please talk about what we're going to be discussing today?
Right, so we're going to talk about the good, the difficult, and then the interesting things about Korea. And then I will also be providing some tips about Korea University and living in Korea as a whole.
Wow, that was a really good summary. How is it life as a graduate student? It must be hard juggling school and just being in a different country.
It's not that hard. Personally, actually, I really like the graduate school life. Though I work at the lab also, so I think most science and engineering students, they're required to work at the laboratory as long as you have an advisor. As a researcher, you do work, and I love my work at the lab because I get to work on my research topic, the topic that I wanna research on. And then it's nice to get along with all the seniors, and then the professor is really is a good professor and very well known, very high citations also. So nothing difficult for me, to be honest.
Really? Yeah. So how long do you work in a lab for?
Well, we are required to work 40 hours per week, so it's a full-time work.
Oh, wow.
I would say from 9 to 5, and then lunch hour included.
So do you take classes on top of lab too?
Right. So if you're during the semester, then you do take classes, and those count as your lab hours.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But during the vacation, you have to work full time at the lab. But it's not like, I know you have to work there, but you actually would want to work there because as a graduate school student, you have to research. So
for your dissertation
yeah,
too.
for your dissertation too. So if you research, you go work at the lab.
Yeah. Okay. And you talked to me briefly about your lab members. So are they mostly Korean?
Right, yes. My lab, they're mostly Koreans. I'm the only foreigner, and the first foreigner that went there actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But they treat me very nicely. First because I'm a foreigner, and then second is because I'm the youngest there. And in Korean culture, if you're a maknae, which is if you're the youngest student or youngest among the group, then they really take care of you. And so they always buy me food. Not that I ask for it, but they do, and they really, if I have a difficulty with anything, they go and they talk to me about it, and they always say, come to me if you need anything. And every time I talk to the professor also, he always says, go talk to your seniors, they will help you with anything you need. So it's great, yes.
Was it easy to become good friends with them at first?
At first, I was lucky enough that they really approached me well, but there were also some members that came into our lab while I was at the lab, so when I was not new, and it was actually hard for them to come up to me and talk to me, so I had to start conversations with them because they tend to be a little bit shy, but afterward they always told me that they were so curious about me, but they were just shy to talk to me because first, their English was not so well, and then also they didn't even know if I spoke English or not.
Oh, really? Yeah. So it would be nice for someone to just approach them first.
Exactly.
Right.
Approach them first. And I would really give you a great tip of learn to speak a little Korean at least, and then just do any Korean word. Just speak any Korean word with them, and then they will love it. And then they will start talking to you in fluent Korean, and then when you get so scared, then they know, oh wait, he doesn't speak Korean. So then they start to speak English with you. So it's great. Yeah. But learn some Korean. It would be great.
Learn Korean before coming to Korean University.
Definitely, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That will help you a lot.
From now on, all you have to do is to listen to the questions that we have prepared and answer them honestly.
Great.
So while you were living in Korea, what made you shout, wow, this is amazing?
Well, I would say the convenient services that they have. That was my first wow, especially at the bank. I've been to many countries, and then every time you go to a bank and you try to deposit something at the bank, it takes like an hour just to do a simple deposit. But in Korea, you get a ticket, you sit down for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then they come, and then you can even open an account in 10 to 15 minutes and walk out with your credit card. That was amazing. So the whole process takes like, 20, 30 minutes. And then the second would be security. Actually, once I left my Apple Watch at the subway station restroom, and then I went on the subway, went 2 stops away, and then I came back, because that's when I remember, right? I came back to go to the bathroom again, and then I saw it was still there, the same spot.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like a lot of people go in and out, but nobody even touched it. So that was amazing. It's very cool.
So on the other hand, then what was the most difficult thing about living in Korea as a foreigner?
Well, to be completely honest, nothing very difficult for me personally, but a lot of my friends had difficulty in housing. So housing can be very difficult if it's the first time for you to come to Korea and live in Korea, and so residential life is not easy. So I would really say that best for you would be to go to dormitory first. So if it's your first time in Korea and you come here as a student, then I would say enter the dormitory for at least 2 semesters. And while you're at the dormitory and you don't have to care about your place to live, then that's when you go out and go around, explore, and see what kind of houses are there. And nowadays, because of all the foreigners and foreign students coming to Korea, actually most of the real estates and the realtors, they speak English. So they have like English and foreign services, which is great.
Yeah.
And there are also a lot of apps too online that you could actually filter them, what kind of house you want, where do you want it, and then they give you all the price and the deposit and everything. So it's great, yeah. But it's difficult.
So what are some recommendations, like really good tips for new students at Korea University Graduate School?
Well, one of the things that I really want to emphasize on is course registration.
Right, that's very important.
Yeah, that is very important because that's all that matters, right? When you're in the university. And course registration in Korea is done all online. So you go to the sugang.korea.ac.kr.
Could you repeat that?
Sugang, sugang.korea.ac.kr. So you go to that website. And then you put your ID and your password, and then you log in. And once you do, you get to the part where there's course list. It's a category. It's called course list. You go into the course list, and then you will be able to choose your department. So what department you are on a drop-down menu. And then you will see the course code, the course title, who teaches it, and the schedule of the course, and all of that. So it would be very good for you to get yourself familiar and so download the academic calendar first, so that you will know when is the course registration.
Oh, so there's a specific period that you can register?
Of course, yeah. So there's a specific period, and then you will know that by downloading the academic calendar.
Okay.
And they also provide manuals for how you do it. So it would be best for you to practice a little bit, and then you go on and do it in real life.
Okay. So is the manual provided in Korean or?
It's in Korean, English, Japanese, and Chinese. So
oh wow! All right.
It's no problem.
Could you also tell us about the facilities that the students might not know about when they first come to Korea University?
Right. Actually, one of the facilities that I didn't know about was the Hwacheong Gym, and then there's the Tiger Dome. So we have like ice rings, and
right.
We have rock climbing. We have squash court, and then we have 2 big gyms in the campus, and one is in the main campus, which is we call the Humanity Campus, and then one is the Science Campus. In the Science Campus, we have Hana Square Plaza. And then that's where you can have where you get to have a gym there. It's on the basement, but it's a very nice open plaza. There's also a bank there, Hana Bank. There's also the one-stop service where you get to issue your student ID card, and also issue certificates, and also issue stuff like proof of enrollment or proof of registration and all of that stuff.
Okay, so I know that once you get enrolled at Korea University, you need a student ID card. And you talked about one-stop center. Could you tell me the steps of getting a student ID?
Right. To get a student ID card, first you need to get your alien registration card, which is your ARC or your national ID card, right? So you're gonna have to get that first because with a passport only, they're not going to issue it for you.
Oh, really?
Yes, yeah, and which makes sense because they want to know whether you have a visa or not, and so on. And with your ARC, and then you give them a photo of yourself. Make sure it's a good photo because it's gonna stay with you for all your years of your education. And then you also need to provide proof of your enrollment or your registration that you are enrolled in Korea University. And then I think it took like about 10 days, maybe 1 week to 10 days until I got my card. And actually one great tip with that is they provide two types of cards. One that you can use as a credit card also, and one that is only a student ID card. And I would go for the credit card one because in Korea transportation service, you can use an integrated chip in the credit card that is called T-Money that you can just use it for transportation also. So pay for food or anything else, and then transportation and student IDs. It's like 3 in 1. It's great. Yeah. I like that part. Yeah.
So now I want to ask more about questions about school. So what was the most difficult part about listening to the lectures?
Well, some of the classes are in Korean, and during those classes, the professor might ask you to speak Korean and not speak English.
Oh, really?
And that's especially when you learn the Korean classes. So there are Korean classes provided in Korea University, and you're required to speak only Korean, not English, right? So that was kind of hard at first, but so that's why it's very recommended for you to follow up with the teacher when you learn Korean, so that you get a good sense of Korean listening. So that was the part.
Can you visit the professor if you have some problems during class?
Sure. Yeah. Every professor has appointment hours, so you go to their office at those appointment hours. But before you do, please make sure you email them, because if you don't email them, their professors in Korea are very, very probably in other countries too. They're very busy, so you would want to email them first before you go and grab an appointment.
So you said that you're in a master's program, right? So at the Korea University Graduate School, we have master's program, integrated master's and PhD program, and PhD program.
Right.
And I know that almost all of them, you have to write a dissertation.
Right.
Could you tell me some process or some tips about how students can finish their dissertation?
Well, if you're in the master's program, whether you are a humanity major or you are a science or engineering major, you still have to write a thesis. Except it's just that when you are an engineering or a science major, then you will also have to have a research paper written most of the time. The professor requires you to write a research paper and publish it, or at least write it and then wait for publishment. Writing your thesis actually requires a lot of skills that you need to kind of cultivate before you start writing your thesis, like statistics or academic English writing, or like essay writing and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure most of the students that come to Korea University, they already have a lot of those advanced skills. So that's one thing. And then another thing would be to always get advices from your advisor, so that you know what direction your thesis is going to go to, and then always track your record and your progress. That way you're not get lost, because it's very easy to get lost when you write your dissertation and your thesis.
So who is the advisor? Do you get to choose, or is there more than one? Could you tell me more about choosing an advisor?
Usually before you start graduate school, you can email your advisor and say that you want to do research at their lab.
Okay, like a professor.
Of course. An advisor is a professor that also teaches in your department, and usually that advisor has to be part of your own department. So that's one thing, and then you also can choose your advisor during the semester also. So for example, you do 1 semester and or 2 semesters first, and then you look for your advisor and see who is perfect for you, perfect match for you. Then you can go talk to them, get an appointment, and then you'll get an advisor for yourself.
How did you find your advisor?
Well, mine, I found it, he was my professor in my major, and I took 2 of his classes, and I really liked the way he taught, and then I also looked up his web page. So almost all professor labs, they have their own web page. And then I looked him up, and then I saw what kind of research he was doing, and I saw that I like it, what he's doing. So I just grabbed an appointment with him, emailed him, and then we met. He did an interview with me, and then he actually introduced me to his lab right away. So it's great. Yeah.
Wow, taking classes, writing thesis, choosing an advisor. It actually sounds like a lot of work. So how many hours do students usually put in?
Well, for study, personally I study maybe 3 to 4 hours a day.
Okay.
That's apart from all the researches and the lab things that I do daily, which is, so you have about 8 hours every day at the lab where you research, and then of course you go over research papers, you talk to your advisor, or you experiment if you're a science or engineering student. Actually, some humanity students also, like psychology major, they also do experiments. So apart from all that, then I also study 3 to 4 hours, all by myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
For your courses.
For my courses, yes, that's daily. Yeah.
So do you have time to have fun?
Of course, yeah. There's, of course, during the weekday there's less time to have fun. But if you manage your time well, I have time to go work out, to go to the gym 2 hours, and then I have like at least 1 hour and 30 minutes for every meal that I have. So as long as you manage your time, then you have time for everything. I do really want to recommend you to sleep well, because Korea does not sleep at night.
Right.
So yeah.
Seoul is a city that never sleeps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It never sleeps. So for you to get enough rest is good, because you always have something to do during daytime. Yeah.
I'm also curious. As an international student, are you allowed to work part-time?
Right. You're allowed, but you have to get permission from the school and then from the immigration office. And then the hours that you can work part-time also varies greatly according to your TOPIK score.
Oh,
TOPIK,
really?
which is test of proficiency in Korean, right? So you will be able to find all this information in the Global Service Center website. But yeah, it varies.
So do you have friends who is working part-time?
Yes, actually, one of my friend works at a restaurant, and so I always get like free services from him every time I go to that restaurant. Yeah, even though he works at the lab too, but he always wants to get some extra check, so he works part-time at the restaurant as well.
Well, speaking of restaurants, I think students will love to hear about the delicious restaurants near your school.
Right. Annam, which is the area that is surrounding Korea University, is full of restaurants, and it's very hard for me to choose a good restaurant because everything is amazing. You know what I mean? I love all the kind of foods that's in Annam, but if I really had to choose and make a list, I would say there is a restaurant that is called Golden Hetsal, and Golden Hetsal
is so good. Yeah.
It's very good. They have. Their kimbap is huge, and then it's
What's
just
kimbap?
so. Kimbap is it's a rice wrap where there is different ingredients within the rice, and then it's cut in like sushi, I would say. You could put like tuna in there. You could put pork. You could put beef in there, or you could just put. You can have it vegan, I think. It's just vegetables in there. So anyway, that's that, and it's very cheap, but it's just so good. There's also another food on the menu, which is called rapokki, and then rapokki is
I love rapokki. Yeah.
they have it's ramen, Korean ramen in in tteokbokki sauce, and then tteokbokki would then, I would have to explain again, it would be
Like a spicy Korean red sauce.
right, yeah, spicy Korean red sauce with rice cakes. Not cake, but I guess
Rice cake.
is it cake?
Rice
Yeah,
cake.
I guess. Yeah. Anyway, that's great. And then
I usually love dipping the kimbap into tteokbokki. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, that
That's
dipping
my
thing
favorite,
is definitely a good tip. And then there's also a lot of international restaurants too. So if you ever get tired of Korean food all the time, you could always go to an international restaurants. Like there's Vietnamese restaurants, there are Chinese, there are Indian restaurants, and then there's also kind of a French vibe restaurant which is called Fromagis, and they have like sandwiches, and there are also restaurants where you can have like like Italian food. So it's so diverse. It's amazing. Yeah.
How's the price for all those restaurants?
The price is usually, because it's around university, so they're usually very cheap. They're student prices, so you wouldn't like the quality is great, and then the price is low because it's around the university. But as you go far away from the university, then the prices go higher, of course.
That's really good to know.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Hana, thank you so much once again for coming.
Thank you for having me. Do you want to go?
Let's go Tigers! 감사합니다.
Bye.